Hello everybody. Hope you lot were all enjoying yourself whilst I was away in Istanbul. Personally, I had an amazing time over in Turkey. Such a beautiful country, great people, peng cuisine, and just an insane amount of detailed and rich architecture, which is probably my favourite part about it, and you'll be seeing a lot of footage in this video from my journey there. I feel like any psychonaut or fan of tripping or just beautiful things in general would really get a lot from going to Istanbul. The symmetry in the design of the mosques is just unbelievable. It gives that sort of like mandala fractal vibe to it that you see in your psychedelic trips. Just shows how much mysticism and religion is interlinked with psychedelics, in my opinion. It was very profound going in the mosques and hearing them praying, and it was also great to finally go to a country that practices Islam, because I've been to a lot of countries in Europe. Turkey's extremely different, a lot more of an Asian vibe going on, which was really interesting, and yeah, highly recommend it. Big ups to everybody who asked to meet in Turkey as well. I know I have a few Turkish followers. I really appreciate that you wanted to reach out, and I'm sorry I couldn't meet with you. I was obviously with my family, and it was another great bonding experience for me, my mum and my dad. I'd not been on holiday with them in 3 years since we went to Bulgaria, which was also a great country that I can fully vouch for. But to get into today's video, fuck, we're already almost 2 minutes in. Oh, I need to sort my head out. So this is a follow-up to the last video, the house party from hell, where I alluded to me getting into possibly the most toxic relationship you can imagine. Really, like, all of the hallmarks of a toxic relationship were littered throughout my time with this girl. I'm just going to refer to her as B throughout the video, because you know how it is with these reports and anonymity and etc. So yeah, we'll get stuck in. Where did it all begin? So it all began one night when I was out in our local town, going out drinking, clubbing with a few mates from, I think I was linking up with a few mates from school / sixth form. We just finished sixth form in 2016, and it was towards the end of the year, around like October, November. And this girl, I'd known her like off and on for like the past year through one of my mates that I made in sixth form, who was in the year below, and it was like basically her best mate. And she was pretty well immersed into the drug consuming community. She was pretty notorious because she was one of the only people who could figure out how to use darknet in the local area. So she ended up becoming like a premium dealer, because obviously a lot of the stuff you get on darknet, if you know what you're doing, can be the highest quality produce you can buy, especially in comparison to sort of like run-of-the-mill dealers around where we live. So she became a bit infamous for that, and me as a polysubstance and basically sesh addict at the time was like, hey, this girl is totally cool. So in the back of my head I was still like, oh yeah, I could see myself being with this girl. Both got a mutual interest in getting on it. And then one day, yeah, that night that we went out in town, we just ended up basically getting with her whilst we were well drunk. And that was the beginning of getting embroiled with her. At first it was just a little fling, and then we started talking more, and she was like on and off with her ex-boyfriend, who was absolutely like fair, like he was so abusive to her. He was an absolute dickhead, proper imprinted some psychological trauma on her, on top of like also being an unhinged person. So it really was a recipe for disaster, her being with this guy, and that ended up affecting our relationship as well. So then, yeah, a few months go on, and then the events of the last video happened, the house party from hell, and then, oh yeah, obviously at the end of all that, I was like, nah, I can't be staying here to face my parents or the consequences of my actions. So I just went with her to her house that she had, and I was staying there, and obviously that deepened our budding relationship. And lo and behold, what ended up happening is that, yeah, we sort of sealed the deal, and we fully got together and we started going out. So for the first like few weeks, it was going all right, to be fair, and it was the first proper relationship I'd had. I'd been out with this girl in year 11 in school, but it really wasn't that serious. It only lasted for like a month or so, and this was like a proper relationship for me. So it was quite daunting, and I didn't really know what I was doing, and that, which I guess also resulted in her sort of screwing me over because she couldn't bring herself to tell me all the things that she wanted out of me that I wasn't giving her, which is a good example of why communication is so important in relationships, and also setting out boundaries and etc., and making sure you understand what makes each other comfortable. There was none of that, basically. We didn't read the guidebook at all. So then what started happening was the cracks started to slowly start appearing. She started to have this interest in taking heroin out of nowhere. She got this book off eBay. It was like The Guide to Taking Heroin. So this was like the first red flag. I was like, whoa, this is really not normal. I've never met anyone who actively wants to do heroin that isn't seriously depressed. So this already made me think that maybe something was going wrong. But I was so smitten, and it was my first relationship, that basically, my judgment was clouded big time by my emotions. So then I was like, all right, we'll watch Trainspotting. I'll show her this film, and hopefully she realizes that taking heroin is not all it's cracked up to be. It's really shouldn't be glamorized in any sense. Hopefully this film sort of nails the point home. Instead, it had the complete inverse effect. It romanticized it in her mind, and it made her want to try heroin even more. So as the weeks went by, she actually ordered heroin off Darknet, and I was out one time with all my mates from this other school. They were in the year below me, and it was just coming up to their leaving due. It was in 2017. So I went out with them to a few clubs, and I ended up getting kicked out of this nightclub because I was sniffing cat in the toilets. And when this guy came in, he was like, "Yeah, lad, what are you saying? Get out of there now." And I was like, "Oh, I'm being sick, mate, don't come in." And then he came in, and I was just ketty as fuck and had like shards all around my nose. And still tried blagging him that I was being sick. And then he was like, "Right, you're fucking coming with me, lad, get the fuck out." So yeah, I got kicked out of there, ketty out my head. So I was like, right, the only place to go now is to my girlfriend's house. So I walked over there, obviously thinking it would be alright if I ended up just rocking up. But when I rocked up to her gaff, I bounced through the front door, and there she was, sniffing heroin with one of our mates. So this just was an absolute headbag, and I just said to her, what are you actually doing? Like, this is really not healthy for your mind, your body, your spirit, anything. You really need to try and work through whatever it is that's attracting you towards heroin. And then she just went in an absolute tizzy, went unbelievably mental, and she just ran out of the door, and she disappeared for like 5 or 6 hours, absolutely smacked off her head. And so I was obviously so worried, kept ringing her all the time. And then me and the other guy, who was really, really nice lad, I'm still mates with him, but he got roped into doing loads of weird shit with her because she had that effect on people. And he just said, right, you just need to calm down, and just what will be, will be. If she's not answering, she's not answering. You can't do anything. I'm just going to wait. So we waited for hours and hours on end, and then she rocks up, and she looks in absolute state. She said she'd been being sick all the time. She thought she was dying. Her heart was having serious palpitations. Head was on fire, and she got back. She was chundering for hours on end, and it was got to the point where I almost was like, right, I need to call an ambulance because this girl is like almost gonna die. And she was like, no, don't call the ambulance, I don't need it, and all this. So I was like, oh well, I'm just gonna have to just be here for her and like comfort her. So I really did my best, to be honest, to try and make her feel loved and get her off heroin. And that night I thought, oh right, well at least this will be a lesson learnt for her. She won't end up doing it again because of how traumatic and horrible it was. And anyone who knows anyone who's done heroin or knows anything about it realizes that is not usually the case when it comes to someone who has a desire to do it in that way. It's just going to keep happening, no matter how disgusting your experience on it might be. You're still chasing that high over and over. So every time after that day, I would come to her house and she would end up sniffing heroin, and we were getting so many little bickering sessions. We'd fight over it. I'd just flush it down the toilet. She'd just end up buying more, waste so much money on it. And her psyche was just getting so much more damaged every time she'd do it. She became an even more like toxic, demonic person. She wasn't going into work. She was losing sleep. She ended up buying this dog out of nowhere, this absolutely mental Springer Spaniel that she couldn't look after, and it just shit everywhere in the house. And I'd always have to clean it up. It would always bark all the time and rip up the floorboards. She didn't take it on walks or anything. It was basically animal cruelty. It was really horrible. And also the dog used to do my head in. Like, I love dogs, but this dog was the devil incarnate. It was just like, did not like anybody. It was just attacking everyone, barked, and was never happy. It just basically needed someone to look after it and love it, but she wasn't capable of doing so because she spent most of her time doing heroin. So much so, this was like after a month and a bit, basically. So a month in already, she's doing heroin and has got the dog from hell. And it was just exploding into chaos every single time. And then, just when I thought it couldn't get any worse, I ended up seeing, we were in bed, and then I saw on her looking on her phone, on her videos or something, and I saw basically what looked like a porno on her phone, and I was like, what's that? And she's like, oh, it's nothing you need to know about, it's fine. So obviously when someone reacts like that, the first thing you think is, it's definitely not fine. So this ended up resulting in me just constantly grilling her about it, because I knew something was going on. I knew, like, some days, you know, when you're in a relationship, when you can just tell that someone's cheating on you or doing something, you can just sense that energy when you're around them. You should always follow, like, your gut, I think, because it's usually right over your head. Your head will rationalize it like, nah, everything is completely normal here. It's fully sound that she's doing all this. So I followed my gut instincts, and then I basically just had to go on her phone while she was on the toilet. And it turns out she'd been seeing her ex-boyfriend the whole time we'd been together for like 2.5 months. Apparently, I was literally looked at text, and there'd be points where I literally left the house and be like, oh, Vivec is leaving now, please come in and we'll have sex. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? So this was the second big red flag in the relationship. This should have been the point where I was like, we're going separate ways, honey, see you later. So instead of that happening, I just ended up staying with her, because it was in that weird toxic relationship aspect where you sort of gravitate towards the pain of each other, and it sort of deepens the relationship in a sense. You become so attached to it that it was hard for us to let each other go, because there was so much shit going on. It was like, we're gonna work through this, man, and all this. But obviously it never ended up happening. It just got worse and worse and worse until it crescendoed later on, where her heroin addiction was reaching sky high. She was injecting it, her whole arm was destroyed, it was blackened. She was just becoming a pathological liar. She'd be like, no, I'm not seeing my ex-boyfriend anymore. And then I'd literally turn up and he'd be there. And then he'd be there with this absolute skits cunt who was like, I'm gonna fucking knock you out, mate. And he was literally like, I'm gonna kill that fucking Vivec, me, and all this. So I literally almost died. They literally turned up at the house one day knocking like, we need to see Vivec right now, we're gonna stab his face up and all this. I was like, holy fuck, this is disturbed on a new level. So then it crescendoed into me going to my mate's 18th, and then I said to B, I was like, all right, I need to come back to yours because I'm really fucked and I don't want to go home. She's like, no, you can't come here, don't come here, this is the last place you want to come to. So her saying that made me want to go more than ever, literally bouncing through the door and go upstairs, and she's naked in bed with this other guy. And then this is where I literally had the moment of madness. I'm so not proud of this, and it really disturbs me. I'm like, not a violent person ever, but this is what it brought me to. And I literally just clobbered this guy, like absolutely just started fighting the fuck out of him, and he was naked as shit. And then I just was like, get the fuck out of my house. And I literally just threw him out in his boxers. Which is just so unlike me. I've just never ever got in a fight ever since then. I'm just not that sort of person. And what was hilarious is, well, I went back upstairs and I said, right, do you have an explanation for this? And she's like, oh yeah, we were just in bed together, we didn't do anything. And I was like, what the fuck, this woman is actually off her head. So I just literally had a psychotic break, started smashing shit up, just absolute toxic masculinity off its head, basically. Whoa, I almost fucking threw the microphone off the desk. So yeah, not proud of that at all. I shouldn't have done that, no matter how bad our relationship was, because that just made things worse. So this was the beginning of the end, basically, and for each month it just got worse and worse. It took her ages to finally just stop meeting her ex-boyfriend. I'd still end up finding like videos and texts. We went on holiday to London, and I literally found a text with her saying, oh yeah, I'm planning on breaking up with Vivec soon, we'll move in and we can get a nice little dog together, forgetting about the dog she already had, and we'll make cakes and have fun times watching Skins and sucking each other off or whatever. And I was just like, wow, this actually just gets worse and worse. Just when I thought, I had it in the back of my mind when we went London, like, oh yeah, this is going to fix our relationship forever. And obviously it didn't at all. The more you know, kids. So yeah, it was some serious fucking Sonic the Hedgehog public service announcement moment that should have got in my head but didn't. So it just kept going and going and going. Another really fucked up thing that happened was, one day I was out, and I swear I was about to do my driving. I was out with my mates in Morecambe. Oh my god, I've just given away where I live. Oh fuck it, I can't be arsed. I like speaking on the fly. I hate re-recording stuff. So we're out in this like amusement park at this sort of like seaside town with some of my mates who I'd not seen in a bit, and she was berating me for going to see them and not seeing her, even though I spent like all the time with her. So to get back at me, she rang my mum and said that she was pregnant and that we needed to speak in person so that we could sort out an abortion or possibly keeping a baby. So this was an absolute blag, because I thought maybe it could have happened. Maybe there was a possibility that she could be pregnant, and obviously my mum thought it was fully real, and she was like, you need to come home right now. And this was the day before my driving test, so that completely obliterated that, because I was just not in the right headspace for it. Turns out when we ended up breaking up, that when my mum ended up interacting with B's mother just over the phone, because so much shit happened that we had to sort out, and so many like horrible instances, and she had to get involved in that. It turns out the mother and father had absolutely no idea about it, yet B said to my mum that she literally went to the abortion clinic with her mum a few days after she initially said that she was pregnant. So that was a complete and utter lie, just to get back at me for going out with my mates. So I was getting seriously abused, to be fair. But just a little tangent here is, I was going to say this at the end of the video, but I'll just say it now, is that it was actually one of the most constructive and developmental periods of my entire life, because not only did it show me what I needed in a partner and how to communicate and how to intuit things about people and sense what like their like level of ego is, and sort of their traumas that basically manifest into cycles of abuse. I could sense that in people and sense that in potential partners. I also found out what sort of person I was, and all of my emotional backlogs from not really interacting with people in school, not having relationships, being a like extreme introvert. And also it made me question also my drug using habit, because she was sort of an example of, if you keep abusing drugs all the time, you could end up becoming as bad as her for how addicted you are, and it'll take over your life and turn you into a monster, like how she became. I was like, well, I don't want that for me. And also during 2017, that was when I had my first ego death experience, which I talk about in my personal story, the Brink of Insanity video. So it was all happening at the right time. It literally couldn't have been better. It's like a symphony of chaos that transmuted into something really beautiful in the end, which was basically my growth as a person and my ambition to raise my consciousness, which ended up, obviously, I got out of this relationship and I was like, right, I need to fill my life with something meaningful that's not just another person. So through my 2 ego deaths in 2017, that sort of put me on the path to really understanding what consciousness is, what psychedelics do to you, the depth of the universe and profundity of reality, etc. So yeah, it was actually a good experience back in hindsight, because obviously when anything fucked up or chaotic or brutal usually happens in reality, it's usually a catalyst for great change and great things. A good example I saw the other day was this guy was saying about, look at like the Civil War in America back in the day. Like when it was actually happening, nobody thought it was a good thing, because it was full of war and brutality and barbarism. But skip a few hundred years later, and it was fully necessary to accept people of other colours and abolish slavery and just improve race relations, really, wasn't it? So again, it's the yin and the yang, it's all interlinked. And I experienced a microcosm of my life with that in this relationship. But getting back to the chunk of the story, so yeah, it was all going to shit, and then all my mates were like, right, you need to stop seeing this girl because she's not good for you at all. And I was just like, nah, we'll just try doing this thing again, and it might be all right. Like, I remember we went to holiday to Crete in Greece, and all my mates were like, how are you going on holiday with her after all this shit she's done to you, and how much I was saying how much she was hurting me. I was like, yeah, but it might be all right, I guess. So I went on holiday, and it was not alright. It just ended up going to shit, and she just could barely be asked doing anything. She was just debilitated from taking heroin all the time, and she was just moody. And fair enough in retrospect. Yeah, like, you would be moody if you had a crippling addiction like that. But it wasn't fair how I was getting treated. And just to point out, I do wish her the best in life, and I assume she's doing much better now, which is great. We just met each other at a really dark part in our lives. She just happened to be deeply entrenched in the abyss, whereas I was just sort of like basking in it, floating on top, and she was literally deep inside the crevices of the fucking Marianas Trench. So yeah, it all kept crescendoing into even more fucked up stuff that was trying. It was basically, the universe was trying to tell me, like, you need to get rid of this girl, because every single week there's something going on. She crashed like 3 cars or something during this whole time. And it was just like every other week she was ringing like, oh my god, I can't do it anymore. Like, I really couldn't deal with it, and it's a point where it was like making me numb. Like, the first time I was like, oh my god, I'm so sorry to hear that, let me come and comfort you. By the 4th car or 3rd or 4th car she crashed, I was like, alright, yeah, I guess that's pretty bad. And then the worst thing, I think, the point where it was like, it was the point of no return, was she picked me up one day. It was like a few weeks before Leeds Festival 2017. I was like, all right, I need to go home from this party or little session that I was having with all my mates, and she was obviously angry at me for going there. So whilst I was there, she was just getting on heroin all night in a room. And yeah, just a little thing to add as well. Her parents were, I don't know if her parents were oblivious to it or were like blissfully ignorant, because they just did not want to get involved with her using heroin. They even knew she had needles in her house and everything. They were so airy-fairy, especially her mum. She was so ditched that, oh, I didn't know she was doing that, and all this. It was so stupid in retrospect, but I feel sorry for them, because obviously she was really, it caused them a lot of suffering. And yeah, she was like, oh, I'll come and pick you up. And me, unbeknownst to me, that she'd been smashing heroin in all night. So she picks me up, and after like 30 minutes, we're about to get on the motorway, and I said to her, are you alright? And she's like, yeah, I'm fine. And she just had them heroin eyes, where a bit like on Ket, where like, it's like the opposite of dilating. They go inward, and they look really small, and just like lifeless and soulless. And then I saw that, I was like, oh shit, she's driving on heroin. And it was also pissing it down. So on the way there, on the motorway, towards the village where I live, she ended up crashing into the barriers, and we spun out on the motorway about 4 times, went from like the right lane to the 3rd lane, smashed between them. It was absolutely mad. In that moment, I genuinely thought I was going to die. It was a very, very weird feeling, thinking in that moment, like, wow, this is it, this is the end of my life. Which, surprisingly, in that moment, I was very accepting. I was like, all right, this is my life. It's been great. It's been a bit fucked up lately, but I guess this is what it is. This is fate. But we somehow ended up surviving. The car was absolutely fucked. She didn't have a seatbelt on. She got fucking like minor women's whiplash. Serious Alan Partridge reference there, if you get that. I was somehow fine. I was just like, yes, we're alive. We can continue to play Dark Souls. And then obviously she was like, oh my god, fucking losing my head, which is fair enough, because she really was losing her head. She was absolutely mental. So that was another eventful thing that ended up happening. That was, funnily enough, another day before my driving test as well. So she destroyed 2. No, that was actually another driving lesson before my next test. So she was just seriously inhibiting my ability to drive, which was funny because she was transporting us about everywhere. So in a way, I feel like she was sort of trying to tether me to her by me not getting a car, because she thought maybe, oh, he might sack me off if he gets a car. He won't need me anymore. So then after that, it just got worse. It got worse. No, it didn't get worse. It was just like, oh, we reached like a baseline. I was like, oh, maybe this is the end of all this fucking nightmarish shit between us. So then what happened was I went to Leeds Festival, and lo and behold, she gets in. No, it wasn't. Some guy went and like smashed a car up because she owed him money for drugs, and then she rang my mate who was good mates with her at Leeds, and he was like, oh yeah, your girlfriend needs to talk to you. I was like, oh, I'm literally having a great time at a festival just away from her, please can you just go? And she was on the phone for me, he's like, no, don't go, you need to stay with me and all this. I was like, I'm literally at a festival, I need to go, basically. So this is when I was really starting to just think like, right, I'm falling out of love with this woman big time. I really don't care, like she needs to get like serious psychological help, but before that happens, she needs to get over me, which ended up resulting in, it was on my birthday, and it was sort of going alright between me and her, and then the minute I woke up in the morning, she was like going absolutely ballistic. She had my phone in her hand, she was like, who's this girl you've been messaging? And I'd literally just been messaging my mate, P. She was just talking to me. I went to sixth form with her. I was really great friends with her, and she was sort of asking how our relationship was going. And I just was honest and said to her all the shit that had happened, and she was like, "You need to break up with this girl. It's really not good for you or her, and you both need to move on and get back on the path of self-actualization rather than wallowing in this unnecessary suffering." And I fully agreed with her, but so obviously she went mental about that, and I was like, give me my phone, get back, give me my phone. And I was grabbing it off her, and then she just threw the phone on the floor, it shattered. So then that was just the breaking point. I was like, just get the fuck out, I never want to see you ever again, this needs to end right now for the both of us. But her reaction to that was the most destructive thing I've seen in my life. She just went insane in the membrane, like she literally just had a psychotic break. She was just flying off the walls, going like blah, 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 blah. Woke my parents up in the morning before they had to go work, and they were like, you need to leave our house now, we do not want you here. But then she was like, I'm gonna go jump off this mountain. There's this cliff near where I live in the village. It's absolutely huge, and she was like, I'm gonna run up there and I'm gonna jump off now. So my mum had to like chase around the village in a car, and she was just like, no, I can't live without him and all this. So yeah, my mum had to do damage control. Really feel sorry for having to do that. She had to deal with so much shit with me and her. It was actually awful. And then somehow she just ended up picking her up and talked to her loads and said, right, I'm going to drop you off in the other little village near us, and you need to basically get your parents to pick you up and go and never come back. And then she just literally apparently stayed in the local village in the pub all day because she couldn't face to go home, and she just sat there just drinking pints all day, completely just messing her up even more. But that was the moment I put my foot down. I was like, this is the end, this is all over now. And thankfully it was. I never ended up seeing her ever again after that, which was such a fucking godsend. It was really the straw that broke the camel's back. It really needed to happen. It was obviously the whole relationship was destined for failure because there's all these red flags coming up that I just kept ignoring, which was very, very foolish. I think in the end, after our relationship, she obviously did get off heroin. She did loads of fucked up shit that I've not talked about during this thing. I know one of these lads that I went to school with, which she ended up getting into this weird symbiotic heroin consuming relationship with whilst we were together, and immediately after we broke up she ended up getting with him, and they were boyfriend and girlfriend for a few months till that obviously fell apart because it was all just based upon their love of heroin, which eventually when they stopped doing it there was like nothing there between them. But yeah, she destroyed my sort of like semi-friendship with this guy because she was literally just getting smacked up with him all the time. One time she had this party. This was so strange. She had a house party at a house she was living in where that dog fucked everything up. She had a house party and invited it was an open party and there was hundreds of people in the house, and she didn't even come to it. She just was in her mum and dad's house getting smacked up and just let people destroy her gaff whilst I was there, and everyone was like, oh, you sort of need to look after this house. And I was like, mate, are you fucking joking? Like, I'm not the one inviting all these people. And just all these randomers came and just trashed everything. It was absolutely weird. And then after they'd all gone, I was like, oh, I'll get some of my mates here to sort of cheer me up, and we were having a nice little time on the Nintendo Switch, playing fucking 1-2 Switch, whoever remembers that. And yeah, out of nowhere, like after a few hours, then every single other person who was there before ended up bouncing back in like, yeah, we're ready for round 2 now, lads. That was fucking horrible. Yeah, she was just absolutely off red, and I hope she's doing well in her life now, because at the end of the day, there's no hard feelings, is it? It's just a part of our lives that happened. We've moved on from it, and it was, again, a serious fuel for me to discover a partner who actually meant a lot to me, and now that's ended up finalising itself with my relationship I'm in now, with my loving partner who understands me and is on the same wavelength, doesn't belittle me, abuse me or anything, and we understand each other and keep growing over the almost 3 years we've been together. I was actually only with that girl, B, for, I think I was only with her like 9 months, but it felt like a whole lifetime. Like 2017 just felt like decades upon decades, and yet in the past 3 years of being with this girl, it's just flown by because we've had so much fun and just understood each other and had an actual loving, deep relationship and connection. So let this be a warning to any one of my viewers who are in a relationship right now and they know in their subconscious, because you do know when you're going through this, your subconscious knows it's not good for you, but your ego will always cloud it because your ego likes tethering you to like what you know. And what I knew was a toxic relationship, so it's like, oh, I may as well just stick it out, I guess, and it'll work out. But it's my subconscious was always saying like, can you actually imagine yourself with this girl in 10 years? And it would always say no, but then I would literally block that thought out and suppress it, and literally that suffering manifested in reality through the fucked up relationship that almost killed me in a car crash. So yeah, I hope this has been an insightful little look into my life, and also, yeah, if any of you are stuck in a relationship like this, try and get yourself out of it in the most conscious way possible. Because it will really do you a lot of good, and also try and understand the suffering of the other person, but in a way where you can't fix them. You acknowledge that this person can't be fixed through me. They basically we need to sack it off, and they need to move on themselves, seek their own help, and hopefully that will be the fuel of the fire that inspires them to actually get that help, which is what ended up happening with me and this girl. Oh yeah, one thing before I go, this was a really weird one that occurred. She just started telling her parents that I was beating her all the time out of nowhere, and I was at my mate's house, and again, she hated it when I was with my mates all the time. So I was at my mates in the village where I live, and we were just having a little sesh, and it went on into the morning, and then her dad turns up with her, and she's like, here he is, that's the guy who's beating the shit out of me, and even he didn't believe it. He was like, yeah, I know, basically, she's an absolute head case, but what can we do? And she was just running around going crazy and that, and then she stole my mate's jacket, which sort of made me end up having to go and see her again, and then she lured me back in and manipulated me back into a relationship. Oh, poor foolish me. Hope you've enjoyed this story, and I cannot believe I've been talking for 31 minutes. That's absolutely fucked up. Yeah. Hope you look forward to the next personal story. Going to try and do 1 or 2 of these a week because I know you guys really enjoy them for some reason. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Great to be back, and I'll see you in the next video.